Hi guys, it's Sophie. It's very cold and very dark in my house, so scarf, heating is warming up. Just that wintry feel today. I wanted to chat to you guys about some goals for 2021. They aren't resolutions, I don't really do resolutions. What I do is set some flexible goals at the beginning of the year that change throughout the year. You might remember, I'll bring the board actually. So you might remember last year we made this board together, and it's completely different to when we made it. All of these things have changed apart from get engaged. So this was what I wanted to do this year. I'll run back to this at the end, but the goals will go on here at the end. So the way I do my goals, the way I set myself these things at the beginning of the year is to spend a little bit of time reflecting on what I want my next year to look like and set some really broad targetless aims. They're not smart, they aren't good objectives. They're just things that help guide me a little bit as I go through, and the board is kind of a reminder for my day to day, and in terms of what I'd need to change every day to actually do the things I want to do. So I thought I'd share my personal sort of aims first, and then I've got reading, booktube, socials. So the first thing on my list that I want to do this year on my personal list is I'm going to get married. So Tom and I are getting married in September. It feels really soon now. And we will get married this year, and I think that we both are like, that's happening. It might not happen the way we want it to, we'll see, but I'm hoping by September we will be able to have some people at a wedding. But yeah, so that's really exciting. It seems odd that get engaged was the only one that stayed on last year, and then get married is the first one on this year. But yeah, so that's an exciting one for 2021. Then the next one is to finish my COPD level 7 qualification. You guys might know that I've been studying through this year. I started it in September 19, and the aim is to finish it just before we get married in 2021. I have got halfway through, so that was one of my goals for this year, was to get halfway through. And I have nearly finished my last courseworky type one. I just have one more bit of primary research to do. And the skills module, I just have to do my CPD record and then a reflective statement. So I'm nearly, she says, nearly 80% of the way through. So I have one exam left, and I have, one business project. So yeah, they're kind of all set out. I'm hoping it'll all go well. I'm desperate to get this primary data back, because then I can submit something else and kind of keep on trucking along. My next exam's in May, and that'll be my last kind of big thing, because the business project is the kind of thing I do all the time at work. So I'm feeling pretty hopeful that I'll be able to achieve that this year, and I'll have my qualification. I still want to do a master's, so there's a master's conversion. You have to just do the dissertation piece, because it needs to be through an accredited uni. So hopefully when I finished it I'll do that, but it might be a little bit of time just to save up the money to do the course after the wedding. But yeah, so that would be really nice. Most of you guys know I don't have a degree, so I'd love to be able to convert it and get a master's degree. I think that would be a lovely thing for me all round, but for now the focus is let's finish the qualification. My next one is a really tiny one. I want to at some point this year stay in a house that isn't mine overnight. So through the pandemic, Tom and I have been really, really careful. We've probably been more careful than a lot of people have, just from talking to people in our social circles. And I've been really, really careful. I think I don't know that I'll be alone with you guys, but I've been following all the rules, to the letter of the rules, as much as I possibly can. And I haven't been away from the house now since this started, and I love our little house, but I would really like just to go stay somewhere else for an overnight stay in 2021. We aren't going to book our honeymoon for after the wedding. We decided it was too high risk, just in case, whilst things might have changed in the UK, they might not have changed everywhere else. So we've got that on the back burner. We'll do it at some point, but I'm hoping that after the wedding, or even before the wedding, we might be able to go and stay away somewhere in the UK in a safe way. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. Then the next two are ones that were on my list by the end of the year, so we'll talk about them as well. But the first one is move more, and I set this midway through last year. I think I started out with trying to do yoga once a week. I think that's what it was originally. But I, throughout the year, really got back into enjoying exercising again, specifically weight training. And I carried on doing that until November when the gyms closed, and then I didn't do it over the Christmas period when they reopened because I knew I was seeing people, like a really small family gathering for Christmas, and I basically just self-isolated for that whole period apart from one trip out. So I didn't go to the gym in that period and I really miss it. So I want to keep exercising in 2021. But again, it's such a loose thing because actually what it means throughout the year may well change, but the overall aim is just moving my body more than I would have done in 2020 before I kind of started it, and to move more than I'm used to. So yeah, that should be exciting. It's not for any like aesthetic goal. It is more about the positive effects it had for my mental health and the feelings of like respect for my body that I got when I was doing it, and I really want to keep those things. So yeah, that's the next one. And then next on the list is to think about gratitude rather than what ifs. This was the other one that was on the list last year, because I found that basically whenever I was having a hard time, I do a lot of what if thinking. So I will feel like things are unfair and I'll say, what if this had happened? What if this could have happened? And 2020 was basically just a nightmare with that kind of thinking, like going in. And it caused a lot of anxiety. I think I found probably through the first lockdown I got really anxious about the implications of like my behaviour and the impact they had on other people, and I was going far beyond what the rules were telling us to do in terms of what I was doing, and I became really, really anxious about having a negative impact on other people by me doing something that wasn't like literally essential to me staying alive, and that was quite a tough time. And I think I've relaxed a little bit now. Like I do try and use the fact we can go outside to exercise, whereas I didn't the first time, and try and be a bit more gentle with myself too. But the idea of kind of gratitude rather than what ifs is whenever I'm having those feelings of what if this had happened or what if my life was this way, to try and stop and take stock of the things I do have. And I have a gratitude journal that I am trying to do as a daily practice. That is the daily practice bit isn't in these because that's more specific. But I do have like a habit tracker, and the aim is to make it so it happens more than it doesn't. The aim on the resolutions is not to do it every day because that is too much. I know I won't. I know I'll fail. I don't want to fail any of these. I never fail any of these because if I think I'm going to fail them, they change. So they're always achievable. They're always relevant. And it always means something at the time that I'm looking for them. So yeah, they're kind of the practice of not interrogating the world for its unfairness, but just, I guess it's radical acceptance, a little bit of accepting that this is the world the way it is and what things do I have. And it has made me feel an awful lot happier on a lot of bad days. So I really want to keep doing that in 2021 too. And then the last personal goal is a bit of a random one, and it's not as broad or as important as any of the others. But in 2020, I tried really hard to look after my skincare, which I've never given like two hoots about before. I always was like, I have bad skin, there's no point, it's just crap. And at the very end of 2019, my skin started to get a lot worse because I'd been changed birth control pills, and I changed back and it improved a lot, but I was like, I'm going to start figuring out how to look after my skin. And that was one of the things I've done through 2020. It's not, I don't do anything that's complicated at all, but I just take a little bit better care of it. And I'd really like to do the same with my hair. I feel like I'm at that age of like late 20s where I feel like I ought to know some of these things, and I just don't, like hair oils and masks, and I have no idea. So I'd like to find some hair stuff that works and makes me feel like I'm taking care of it the same way I have done this year with my skin. Then on to reading and bookish goals. Reading. There are no goals this year. So I set quite a lot of reading goals last year, and this year my entire approach is let reading be what it needs to be this year. So 2020 again, and 2021, it's a new year, we're feeling some hope, but the beginning at least is going to feel like 2020. My reading was sporadic. It was a bit crap. I had to take a lot of energy to get into stuff. Basically, my brain was just so involved with all the COVID stuff I was doing at work, all the COVID stuff that I was reading about when I was home, the worries about family and different legislation and guidance and everything meant reading wasn't something that was that helpful. What was really helpful in 2020 was Nintendo games. So I played a lot of shit games last year, and not shit games, good games, but it wasn't something that I would normally spend that amount of time doing. And that's okay. In 2021, if my brain is too tired to read the kind of things I like to read and I won't get enjoyment, it will just be a slog, I don't have to read. It feels very odd to say this in booktube, but that is kind of my reading goals, is let it be what you need it to be this year. If by the spring things feel a lot different and I want to go back into that like frenetic, reading everything I can get my hands on and just eating everything up, that's cool. Whereas if by spring things are still really stressful and I can't get my head into things, I don't have to force myself to be trying to read for the sake of trying to read. So that's all my reading goals are. It's not very ambitious potentially, but we'll see. Then I have a few more for booktube and socials this year. So for booktube, really, like for this stuff, my main aim is to keep going even when it's busy. So this year is going to be really busy for me. I know that. I'm going to be doing an exam, I'm going to be getting married, I'm going to be trying to finish a qualification before I get married. Work will be busy with more COVID work, and I'm going to be trying to exercise as well. So there's a lot of things that are sort of beating around for my time this specific year. 2021 is going to be a busy one. But I want to keep making time, even if that time is small, to do this. And as it's been this year, it may well just look a bit like weird, like you'll get loads of videos for a period and then I'll disappear for a bit and then I'll come back. But the aim is just keep going, but like the reading, let it be what it needs to be. When there is time and I have capacity and brain space and everything else to film, I will film. If I don't feel like it, or it's just one thing too much, I won't film that time. And that's okay. So it's keep going, keep making time, but not to stress out about making time and prioritizing this above things that might actually be more pressing. The next booktube goal is to not worry about subscribers, view count, anything else, like any measures of success that the platform provides. So because of the fact I've done this weird no content schedule, very unreliable posting, YouTube hates me. YouTube really doesn't like me. I have struggled in gaining the same kind of interest in my videos and the same kind of engagement than I have at any other point. I've never filmed in this kind of way before. But those numbers and those statistics and those gamified systems of social media are not more important than all the other stuff I'm doing, and I have to not give a rat's ass about any of it. I have to not care if I post a video and it doesn't get to 500 views, even though that hasn't happened for me in a long time. That just has to be okay, and I actually think I am okay with that. It feels a bit weird saying that, but I think because it's now been a year that it's been a bit weird, I'm kind of like, cool, that's what happens. When I log in, I don't get the nice green arrow up. I get lots of down arrows, but I'm still here and I'm still doing it, and that still matters, and it's fitting around my life rather than being driven by a social media platform as to what I'm supposed to be doing with my free time. It can be very alluring. For those of you who don't have a YouTube creator app, it gives you your latest video and then tells you are you doing better or worse? Do people like you? Do people not like this video? Oh, they do. People like this video. Good. Make more videos. And it's like any other social media thing. But this year, like 2020, I'm here. I'm making stuff. I'm making it when it counts to me, and the other stuff doesn't really matter. The next YouTube goal, which I've tried to do a few times in the past, so this is why it's a solid goal, that won't go on the board. Only the personal ones go on the board. Is to try and CC every video I make in 2021. If you scroll through my videos, like the uploads, you'll see there's periods where I do really well, and then there's periods where I don't do so well. And I want to do it partly because of the accessibility, but also because I'm someone that always watches with CC on. My hearing's not great. It's not terrible, but I struggle to hear anything on YouTube, my phone, etc. if there's any other noise. So if our dehumidifier is running, if the washing machine's on, if Tom's playing games, I can't hear. I need the CC to be able to read it. And I was like, Sophie, you couldn't watch your own videos. CC the damn things. But again, to facilitate me doing that, given all the time and all the pressures and everything else I've just spoken about, they aren't going to be like 100,000% correct. I'm going to do it that's good enough. I'm going to do it to a way that I could watch a video at, rather than what I'd normally do, which is like a line by line, like word by word edit of everything to make sure it reads nicely, that it really reflects it. I'd listen to the audio, make sure the timings are perfect. I'm just going to say, look, that's good enough is good enough, but I want to have it there, because it just felt really hypocritical of me to always be annoyed if someone else didn't have it and not always have it on my own. So that's me calling myself out a little bit. And then the last YouTube one is I want to keep replying to every comment that I get. I do try really hard to do this. If you've commented and I haven't replied, I'm sorry, it happens sometimes, but I try pretty hard actually to try and make sure I'm always talking back and it's not just a one-way conversation. I'm not saying stuff, you're saying stuff, and then it goes into the void. The only exception is I get comments on really old videos sometimes, and I just don't know what the content was anymore. If they're like 3 years old, I probably don't know what I'd said. So I sometimes don't reply to really old video comments, but I try and go through and reply to all of my comments on my newer videos. So I want to keep doing that. I like doing that. And then one is a spreadsheet, wish, goal, whatever. Which is I really want to try recording all the books as I read them, so doing it in a slightly different way. Normally I probably read like 4 or 5 books and then I go back and I put them in as a group. But what I want to try and do this year, because I think it could be quite good fun to do it this way around, is I want to, before I get to start a book up, start logging it on the sheet, like put all the info in, apart from I normally do genre last, because I feel like I don't really get what genre a book is until I've read it. Obviously when I finished it in star rating, but to have everything else started before I'm allowed to open the book. I've been doing it. I've read 4 books, amazingly, in the first 3 days of the year, and it's been really nice to do that, and it makes me quite excited to enter the stuff in at the end. And I think it's quite an easy one, because it's not any additional work, it's just doing it at different times, and I think that could be quite good fun. I think it could be quite motivating to know there's a little box I get to fill in when I finish a book. So that's what I'm going to try. And then the last thing I want to try and do is to try and take a photo of every book that I read in 2021 and share it on Instagram. Instagram this year too has been very much up and down. Twitter, I go on every single day and never post anything on, because I feel like I'm so far out of Twitter now that jumping in would be weird. But Instagram I do post on sometimes, but I think it would be a quite nice thing to look back on, to have the cover of all the books I'd read throughout the year on my feed. I think it'd be fun. I don't think it's forever. I think it's probably just for as long as I can keep it up in 2021. But given the number of books I read last year, and given that I think this year is going to be a little bit similar to last year, 70 books, 70 pictures sounds pretty reasonable. So yeah, we'll see how I go. But those are my goals for 2021. If you want, I'll link the video where I made this for last year, so you can see how different it is. But just to show like what my little thing looks like. So I'm going to keep a lot of those on there. So the gratitude and what ifs is going to stay. Get engaged is going to turn into get married. Get halfway through is going to turn into finish, and move more is going to stay. So the things that I'm going to add is to have a weekend away at some point, and to look after my hair. So that's all that's going to change. Down the bottom was I put in my yoga. I think I had swimming. I think I was supposed to do yoga every week and swimming once a month, which didn't happen. Why it became move more, because I can tick it off and it still counts. And I put in here the Chloe Ting challenges that I'd done, but that turned into the gym, so that didn't mean anything either, and that's fine. That's why it gets wiped off. And then I had a little box in the middle that said, how do you feel? And that was in relation to the exercise. And I said, happier, stronger, and more confident. So that's the kind of stuff I spoke about as to why I want to keep going. So I'll erase this, and I'll write up those new personal goals. And then it is on my wall all year long. And it changes all the time. So there's not really a point in me going back through everything I set last year, because it literally changes all the time. Every time I look at the goals and I go, I don't really want to do that anymore, I just delete them. It's fantastic, and it means I can set myself aims without being tied to them to the point where it no longer becomes achievable or fun to look at them. And I really like it. I've done it for about 3 years now, and I probably wouldn't change the way I do it. So if New Year's resolutions aren't really for you, but you like ticking stuff off, I would recommend my very laissez-faire attitude of I can change the things and tick them off by the end of the year, regardless of what they are. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I just thought it was interesting to have a chat through. I've seen a few of these videos floating around. Lots of people have many more reading things than I do, but that's kind of the point, isn't it? They're all different. Everyone's different as to what they want. So yeah, let me know down in the comments below whether or not you set aims for each year, and what you reckon to my way of doing it if you want to pass judgment. I'll see you guys again soon in another video. The whole video has been leading up to this. I don't quite know when, I don't quite know what it will be, but I will be here. I will continue being here. Yeah, love you guys lots, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.